Everybody just wants what they want for free. All these guys want to take these girls out for nothing. Like, they want to go on a couple coffee dates and still have sex with you. Like, they think you should have sex with them immediately after they haven't even committed to you. Are you entitled to her body? The girl who just like expects it, who's just like, yeah, you should be doing that. That's what you should be doing. That's your job as a man to do that for me. Like, that. Like, I'm not paying. That girl doesn't get a dime out of me. I don't know what you heard about me, but you can't get a dollar out of me. Go be with a man who buys your. That's what it is. Like, go be with a guy who's equally transactional. How do you deal with your boyfriend telling you he's going to make plans, make a date, and then never does it? He tell me he's going to get you a gift and never does. Look, the fact that you're asking this question, you already know the answer. You already know the answer. If somebody punches me in the face, and then I say, don't punch me in the face, and they promise they're going to stop punching me in the face, and then they punch me in the face again, at what point am I the idiot for continuing to stand next to the face puncher? Right? So if your boyfriend says, I'm going to take you out on a date, or I'm going to buy you this thing, and then they never do what they say they're going to do, it becomes your problem for staying there. Why are you still there? Why are you still standing there? Make a decision for yourself. You're an adult. Do you want to be with somebody who's a liar? No? Okay, then stop it. Odds are you probably don't have. I'll try to be nice, but you want them to be the one to walk away from you because you can't make any decisions for yourself. You need them to be the one to break up. You need them to be the one to make all the decisions for you because you don't know how to make a decision for yourself. How do you deal with bullies? Depends. People on the internet aren't bullies to me. Sometimes, like, I don't really entertain them anymore. I used to entertain them a little bit, but you don't know me. Okay, well, somebody calls me bald, yeah, so? I don't have hair like I used to. I still got a little bit there, you know? Just got a little bit on top. But I don't care. What does that mean? Who cares? If there's something that's true about you, own it. Like, and that still shows on them. If you're short and somebody calls you short, well, thanks for the observation. It's like, tell me something I don't know. You have to be confident in the things that you need to be like that you need to accept about yourself. That's how you deal with bullies. It's like if it's a true thing and you find acceptance for it within yourself, and if it's something that's not true, then you just know that it's a lie. But either way, for somebody to say these types of things to you says more about them than it does about you. Emma, I didn't see your comment. Can you repeat it? What was your question? Can you speak to trust to others when you've come out of a very toxic relationship? Just a girl. Sure. Let's chat a little bit about trust. So what happens, I find, is if you've chosen somebody who is not good to you and you're just out of this toxic relationship, a lot of times what you've lost is trust with yourself. It's not the reason why you can't trust other people is because you can't trust yourself. You can't trust who you're going to choose. You can't trust if you're going to be okay if somebody breaks your trust again, right? You're like in a very fragile place with yourself. Okay? If I can really trust my skills, I don't have to be quite as trusting of other people because no matter what they do, if I know I'm good, I'm good. Like I'm good no matter what you do. You want to act like that, you want to be dishonest, you want to be unfaithful, that's you. That's not me, right? And so I find the best way to build the ability to trust other people is to have a strong base within yourself. And so I find a lot of people who struggle with toxic patterns often are people who also aren't very good at trusting themselves, aren't very committed to themselves. At least in my experience and what I've seen and what I've observed. So start small. Doesn't matter what it is. You got to start making some little commitments to yourself and then holding yourself to your own word. It's like, I'm going to make my bed in the morning tomorrow. Make your bed in the morning. Become someone you can trust. Be able to say yes. Be able to say no, even more importantly. Because if you're always getting stuck with these toxic patterns with people, it's often also, it could be because you're a person who struggles to say no. And if you can't say no to what is wrong for you, you can't say yes to what is right for you, right? So hopefully, that's a good place to start. Yeah, we're built for connection, I believe, as human beings, and it's only because of modern society and abundance that has allowed us to be individuals. Individualism would have got you killed for almost all of human history. You want to go live off the land? You're dead. By yourself, you're dead. You know, it required your neighbors and your community to keep you alive. Right? When it comes down to survival, we needed each other, and now we live in a world where we don't need each other. So the only reason we can be like, oh, I'm okay being alone, it's only because you have a house that has heating and cooling, and you have Amazon, and you have Uber Eats, and you have the internet. It's the only reason why you're allowed to be living alone. This is not what we're built for as human beings. We're not. This is not the society we're built for. But we are adapting to it, and that's what I think one of the problems is in our societies. We're adapting to an environment that is actually not in alignment with humanity, because we are now learning to be so individualistic and so isolated. It's creating narcissism. I believe this. We're becoming more narcissistic because, one, because we can be more selfish and self-centered and self-serving, but also it's like you almost have to become that. You almost have to become somebody who has an antisocial personality in order to cope with the lack of human connection. It almost becomes like a cope. It's like, in order for your brain and your emotions to survive in such a disconnected world, you have to become somebody who's kind of sociopathic. So it's not like that people are inherently more evil now than ever, but people are actually becoming more and more and more and more narcissistic. And it's not really because they're bad people. That's something that I've been thinking about a lot lately. A lot. I just posted a video over my YouTube about it, and just like, and that's how we date now too. We're very entitled. We want as much as we can get from other people with the littlest amount of investment possible. It's like, what am I getting from you? What am I getting from you? What do you bring to the table for me? It's like, what do I get? What do I get? And like I said, it's not necessarily that people are inherently bad or evil or trying to be. I think people genuinely want to be loved. I think people genuinely want to be in healthy relationships. I think most people want to get married and meet the person that's going to look them in the eyes and say, I choose you for the rest of my life. I believe most people want this, but we're being poisoned by the water that we are drinking. And when you get somebody once you start to drink a little bit of the narcissistic Kool-Aid, you become incapable of relationship. And if you have two people who are both in it for individual reasons, you can't play as a team. It's like relationships are a team sport, but everybody wants individual. You have to play for the logo on the front of the jersey, not the name on the back of the jersey. Anybody who has grown up playing team sports, you kind of understand this concept a little bit better than most. Because we crave connection, genuinely, as human beings, we're built for connection. When we aren't getting that connection, what's the alternative? I can be sitting here alone and my body is just giving me a whole bunch of really bad feelings about being alone. Or to cope with it and to help my mind and my emotions to adapt to being so alone, I can start to like make everything more about me. I don't need other people. I don't need no man. I don't need no woman. I don't need anybody but myself. Me. All I need is me. And that can be just like how our minds are just trying to cope with the lack of connection. I don't know. Does that make sense? Like, I don't know if that's tracking for some of you guys, but it is something that I've been thinking about. What do I think about ego? I think about it all the time. I think you don't want to have too far in either direction when it comes to ego. You need a little bit. Ego is, dictionary definition, I think, is your sense of self-esteem, your sense of self-worth, your sense of self. If it's overinflated, you become blind. But if it's underinflated, you become unable to believe in yourself. So neither completely empty and completely overinflated is is good. I think balance is the truth. Balance is the way, the truth, and the light. You know, they say the road to heaven is straight and narrow, right? And if you've ever walked a straight and narrow line, what does that require? Balance. You cannot be too far to the right. You cannot be too far to the left. People with extreme behaviors and extreme viewpoints can't be balanced people. So there are people who actually need to build a little bit more ego, build a little more sense of self, believe in yourself a little bit more. You can't learn anything if your ego is too much. You can't, because you're always right. And that's something that I struggled with for a long time. I hate being wrong. And even now, it's like I don't like ever feeling like I don't know how to do something. If there's one thing that can make me really upset is when I don't know how to do something. I feel like I should know how to do everything. Honestly, this is a problem of mine. I genuinely feel like I should know how to do everything. I hate it when I don't know how to do something. Hate it. Is anybody else like that? Any of you guys like that? Do you get? I get genuinely upset with myself. Like I get. There's not many things that make me emotionally like erratic. Like I'm not. I'm mad. I get mad. I'm mad at myself that I don't know how to do something, and it's such a weird thing. Like why? You've never done that before. Why would you know how to do it? I think the first time I had a pretty big insecurity about that was not knowing how to drive a manual car. Because I dated a girl, one of my first girlfriends in my teenage years, and she told me a real man knows how to drive a manual car. And I continued to pursue this girl. Like that was one of many things. But like that kind of stuff stuck with me. And there's so many things. It's like a man would know how to do this. And so as soon as I don't know how to do something, I feel like I'm not a real man. Like I'm not man enough. Because a real man would know how to do everything in the world, everything. It took me years to actually finally learn how to drive a manual, to humble myself and admit that it's like, I don't know how to do this. Can you teach me? I hated it. I hated that moment, but it was necessary. I feel like most men feel this, but few speak it. Yeah, actually, I would say that a lot of guys do feel that way. What does it mean to be a man now? I think safety is like the core modus operandi for a man. You want to provide a sense of safety to the people around you, mentally, physically, emotionally, spiritually, right? And it's funny because it's tied into what I was just talking about, because it's hard to provide safety if you're not competent in what it is that you're providing safety on, right? It's easier for me to help somebody feel safe physically if I'm a physically dominant person, if I'm physically competent, if I know I can defend myself, for example, right? So it's almost like you need to have some level of competence in order to provide safety. That's why there's a lot of pressure on men. Like I'll speak from my own experience as well. So it's like if I have to provide safety, there's like a requirement of me to be competent in a lot of different ways. That's already a lot of responsibility. So I'm supposed to be a lot of things in order to provide safety for other people. So it's like I have to literally be everything. And a lot of guys are having to learn to navigate a very different world. That's, I think, one of the big things for men. We're facing a challenge that our forefathers, the last 2 generations didn't really have to face. 3 generations maybe. You know. And when my dad was growing up, you could be a postman and you could have a mortgage and send your kids to college and go on vacation every year off of 40 hours a week working at the post office. That does not exist. The average person cannot afford shit. You can't afford to be a provider, the average man. And so most men in society are really, really struggling. Like that's not the reality anymore. You don't get, but it's still kind of expected. There's a different dance between men and women that's happening, and it's really hard to reconcile. It's really hard for the women to reconcile. It's really hard for the men to reconcile. You almost have to deconstruct your belief systems of what it means to be a man and play in the positions of provider and stay at home and protector. Like these roles have become quite twisted up, and they just don't quite exist in the same way. And so most people have to navigate it differently now. So yeah, it's an interesting conversation because I don't know. I don't know. There's no answer to it, and nobody really has the answer to it because previous generations can't teach us about it. They had no idea. They don't know anything about how the world is right now, like cost of living, or even just like social media. My parents didn't grow up conditioned to social media, conditioned to having pornography in your hand 24/7, 365. It is messing with our minds. It is messing with our minds. So much has changed, and we're all just kind of trying to figure it out. And we're all just trying to do our best. I truly believe that. Because I honestly, if you take somebody and sit them down and you ask them about the things they want in life and the things they struggle with, everybody's struggling with insecurity. Everybody wants to be loved. Everybody wants to feel important. Almost everybody wants to, like, man, I would love to be, find my person, get old with the person that I love, have a family. Like almost everybody, at their core. Right? And so most of us want a lot of the same things, and it's really sad that of how much struggle and pain there is when it's like, if we want the same things, why is it so hard? If we want the same things, why is it so hard, man? And recently what I've kind of come up with a little bit, I spoke about it in my last YouTube video. So if you guys don't know, I do some YouTube videos. That's where I'm putting more of my content. So subscribe to me over there. Let me know what you think. I also have published a book. It's called Love Isn't. It's done really well. It's poetry and self-help about escaping toxic relationships. That's my little plug. Now, sometimes what I was saying earlier in this chat was the world has become really individualistic, and it allows you to be. And because of the individualism of the world now, we become more narcissistic because of it. Not because people are worse now, because people are just like, oh, there's just like so much more entitlement. There's so much more of this. There's so much more of that. It's almost like we become that. One, because we're allowed to, because of the abundance, but also just because it's like a cope. If I'm alone all the time, in order to cope with my loneliness, I start to tell myself I don't need anybody. And you start to you become the main character of your story. You become more self-serving, and your life is becoming more and more antisocial. And so you become more antisocial. And what is narcissism? An antisocial behavior disorder, right? I think people today I know people today are more narcissistic than ever before. It's been studied that narcissism has been going up a percentile every single year. It went up like 30% between 1973 to 2006 or something like that. And so the more narcissistic we become, the less capable we are of relationships, because we want what we want from other people. We see relationships as a way to get what we want. And that doesn't work. That's what I do see more and more from men and women. We want so much, and we don't really see it as entitlement. We see it as empowerment. Why? Because we celebrate narcissism, like narcissistic principles, like the whole, even Drake's song came up, it's all me, all me, all me for real. I don't need nobody. Like that. Being hyper independent is seen as like the ultimate form of empowerment. Being antisocial, being like, I don't need nobody. I use people. We celebrate people who are extremely narcissistic. And so those are the values that we worship. Why do we tout these behaviors as like the pinnacle of what humans should act like and be like? It's not a surprise that relationships are really struggling. But yeah, every single time, like almost all of these empowerment coaches, they speak narcissism. Anytime I see like these men's focused coaches or these women's focused coaches, usually they're speaking individualism. They're promoting individualism. So the men's focused coaches, they're always talking about like men are this, men are that, men are that. And it's almost like focus on yourself. Focus on like men. How do, as a man, you deserve this from, we're the prize. We deserve this from women. And when you listen to the women coaches, a lot of times they're talking like, women are the prize. They deserve this from men. As women, we deserve this, we deserve that, we deserve this, we deserve that. These are our standards. Same thing on both sides. It's like individualism and narcissism. Like, I'm an individual. I don't need you, but I need this from you. I'm a woman. I don't need a man, but I need this from a man. As a man, I don't need a woman, but I need this from a woman. Super narcissistic. And we wonder why both sides can't get in a relationship with each other. Everybody just wants what they want for free. All these guys want to take these girls out for nothing. Like, they want to go on a couple coffee dates and still have sex with you. Like, they think you should have sex with them immediately after they haven't even committed to you. Are you entitled to her body? Right? And a lot of these girls, they expect guys to pay hundreds and hundreds of dollars that they would never spend. Like, that's what I mean is like, when you're expecting things that you would never do for the other person, there's like a level of entitlement there. You know, it would be weird for me, like, you went on 2 dates with me and I'm like, yeah, well, I think you should be like coming over to like help tidy up my house. I think you should be making me lunches, right? You know, you should be like cooking and cleaning for me. That would be weird and super entitled for me to demand of you. So why are we demanding things of people? Right? And these things aren't necessarily bad. Like, it's great if a guy's going to take you out for dinners, do it, like, that's awesome. And it would also be great, like, if a girl like went on a couple dates with a guy and then they were at his house hanging out and she decided she wanted to make him a lunch, or she decided she wanted to help fold his clothes. Why not? Totally do it. But it's when you expect it that it's a problem. Like, why do I don't expect that. If you want to do it, that's amazing. Cool. Like, you're showing what you're willing to give. And that's where we get these things wrong. It's like I'm going to make another video on this. I'm going to try and get it a little bit more succinct and a little more eloquent and not so scattered, because my thoughts on it are still a little bit all over the place. But it's weird when it is expected of you. That's entitlement. Are you expecting other people to do things for you that you are not doing for them, or you would never do for them? That's weird. That's weird, and you wouldn't want to do things for that type of person, right? I want to spend hundreds of dollars on the girl who's like super appreciative of it. When she's like, "Wow, thank you," like, but that only people who will be appreciative are people who would also do it. You know what I mean? The girl who just like expects it, who's just like, "Yeah, you should be doing that. That's what you should be doing. That's your job as a man to do that for me." Like, fuck that. Like, I'm not paying. That girl doesn't get a dime out of me. What are you talking about? You expect it? You think you're entitled to this shit? Bye. Bye. Go be with a man who buys your. That's what it is. Like, go be with a guy who's equally transactional. You will not get in a healthy relationship. You're incapable of it because of your mindset. It's not the fact that somebody spends money on you. It's not the fact that somebody cleans and cooks for you. Those things are great. It's your mindset when you think somebody owes that to you. That's a problem. People don't owe you anything. The other analogy I have is like a team sport. If I'm the goalie, I don't start being like, "Well, you're the player. You should be scoring goals." I'm not going to stop any more pucks. I'm not going to stop any more goals until you score more goals. That's what our relationships are like right now. Or the scorers are like, "I'm not going to try and score anymore until you make more saves." Or, you know what I mean? It's very like, it's weird. Nobody knows how to play as a team. It's like, you don't even want each other's positions, bro. You don't even want to live in each other's positions. So lean into your position. I'm going to do my best as the goaltender, and you're going to do your best as the forward. And we were trying to win the game together. We're trying to win against the other team. We're not trying to win against each other. That's weird. Why are we competing against each other? Why am I'm not entitled to? No, man, like, that's weird. That doesn't work. So hopefully that makes some sense. I really, hopefully I can say some things that can speak to this. We are navigating something that nobody knows, and everybody, we're gonna err towards what makes us feel safe. That's the thing. It's gonna make me feel safer to get mine from other people without giving anything. That's gonna put me in the safest position, put me in a position of power. You have men on one side saying a woman needs to love a man more than he loves her, and you have women on the other side saying a man needs to love a woman more than she loves him. That's not the goal. That's what somebody says when they're in a position of fear and weakness. They need the other person to do more for them than they're willing to do for them. I need you to do more for me than I'm willing to do for you because that makes me feel safe because it puts me in a power position. That's all that is. It's and love and fear don't coexist. So most people are dating and building relationships out of a position of fear and lack and need, not a position of love. And you're going to align with a reflection of yourself. Yeah, now that I've gone on like a bunch of different rabbit trails here, I think I'm going to have to write about this a little bit so I can get this down for a video for you guys over on YouTube. So if you're interested in the topic, hop over to my YouTube, show me some love and support there. I did a video on entitlement. I also did one disagreeing with the notion that I've heard some guys say that only women, children, and dogs are loved unconditionally, because I think that's absolute garbage. To say that only men love for real and only men are willing to like love unconditionally. Men aren't loved. Men are only loved conditionally. It's like, I don't know about that, man. You have these girls out here dating an absolute broke dude who cheats on her constantly, abuses her, and she still sticks around hoping that he's going to change. So I've never liked that quote. I've always thought it's like total bullshit. It's such a lie. We offer too much grace sometimes. Yeah, absolutely. Absolutely. And I think sometimes, ladies, one last thing I'll say about that. Sometimes it's almost like you want to prove that a guy loves you if he's willing to change for you. You almost pick somebody who treats you badly because if you can get him to treat you right, then it'll finally prove that you're worth love. Worth the love that you don't believe you are. Because you'd run away from the guy who's actually willing to treat you right. It's almost like you're more attracted to changing somebody who's treating you poorly to treat you right than you are about somebody who's just willing to treat you right from the jump. And maybe that comes from your parents, right? Maybe your dad wasn't there, and so his love was unavailable, and so you were never able to change him. And so now you're going to seek that same kind of thing out. You're going to look for somebody whose love is unavailable and trying to make it available, right? So that's something that you really got to unpack, or you'll just continue to repeat it, because if there's a lesson there that your brain and your heart are trying to learn, you will just repeat it until you finally learn it. And if you want to get my poetry book, it's called Love Isn't, and it's taken from the 10 years I spent in toxic cycles and relationships. So it's really about pattern recognition and feeling recognition and learning how to bring awareness to the toxic patterns so you can then escape them, because you can't fight what you can't see. It's available on Amazon. It's if you're not convinced, I think it's right now 4.9 out of 5 stars on Goodreads and Amazon. So it's been pretty well received, and I'm very proud of it. Thank you guys. I couldn't do it without you. It's poetry and self-help perspectives, like journaling perspectives. So I really like expressing myself through poetry, but sometimes I think poetry leaves you in the feeling and doesn't really give you the lesson. So I mix my two favorite genres of writing, like a little bit of self-help with poetry. My next book is going to be about what comes after that, but I can only write from my own experience, right? So I find after you've escaped all the toxic stuff, you kind of lose your identity, because so much of who you are has been wrapped up in problem solving in toxic cycles. And you don't really know who you are and who you want to be, and there's like this blank space, this lack of meaning and lack of identity. And when you don't when you aren't drowning yourself in alcohol and addictions, you really have to face yourself for the first time. And that's a pretty interesting place to be. And so that's what I'm writing about now. Much love to all of you. Thanks for spending your time with me here tonight. Really, really appreciate it.